The crazy action continues. Welcome to part 2 of our 12-hour session. We just cashed out of a private game for a profit of $400. It's nearly 1 a.m. and we play until 5 a.m. We're into the 1-2 game for $500. In this first hand, we look down at Queen 10 of clubs. We're playing 7-handed and we're under the gun 2. Under the gun decides to raise to $15, and with 40% of a royal flush, we're going to 3-bet this. We make it $40. Then the short stack, who's on tilt, goes all in for 125, and now if the under the gun player raises, we're going to be out of here, but they put in the call. So now it's our turn. We're going to put in the call here. No reason to fold right now, because if we hit a flop, we're going to get paid big, and we're getting a great price to follow along. So we put in the chips. This pot's around $375, and the flop comes king, queen, 7 with 2 clubs. We have a flush draw with middle pair. So now we're heads up with the other opponent. He has us covered, and when he checks to us with middle pair and a flush draw, I don't really want to bloat this pot. I think it's most likely the small blind has a king in their range, and there's no reason for us to fold out any hands that we're beating right now. So we're going to check this back and evaluate a turn, and guess what comes, baby? We're going to be running hot in this session, the deuce of clubs. We got there. We have the second nuts, and when it checks to us against this opponent, we only have a pot-sized bet left behind, and I think the best course of action is to go all in and target all of his 2-pair hands. Maybe he has pocket 7s or pocket deuces for a set, and we want to get max value against all those cards right now. So we shove it all in, and he folds, and the only hand that beats us right now is ace 5 of clubs, which I think is very unlikely. The river is the jack, and our opponent flips over a hand I could not believe. He had pocket deuces, so we turned bottom set, and if the board decided to pair, or if the last deuce in the deck came out, we would have lost. But we're going to scoop this pot for our first hand, $375 coming our way. It feels good to get lucky. If you guys will subscribe and enjoy my journey, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to turn on the notification bell, that'll alert you when I post my vlogs. In this next hand, we look down at ace jack of clubs. We're in the big blind. Under the gun decides to raise to 15 with only $50 behind effective. Then the cutoff calls, and then it's back on the button, and he decides to raise it to $75. Now, when the small blind gets out of there, we're looking at the button, and he has around $500 in his stack, and I think a 4-bet here will take down all this dead money, and I think the button has a huge incentive to squeeze here, and his range will be very wide. So we want to put in the 4-bet here and represent the top of our range with a decent holding. I think this falls under the 4-bet category sometimes, and I'm not sure if this is for value or not, but I think this is just a good squeeze play. So we're going to put in the 4-bet, and I couldn't really find a sizing that made sense. If I made it 250, we're putting half our stack in, so we might as well commit right now. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to ship our entire stack in the middle. The only opponent that has us covered is the cutoff, who decided to call the original raise, so I'm okay with flipping against a hand like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s. So we 4-bet all in for nearly $600. Then the under the gun player puts their $50 in the middle. The cutoff folds, and now it's back on the button. I'm assuming he's going to let this go, but the button snap calls, and he flips over pocket kings. So we got the wrong read in. He was at the top of his range, and we need to get lucky for us to survive this pot. With just under $1,200 in the middle, we're going to a flop, which comes deuce 3-10 with 2 clubs. We have a flush draw and 1 over. The turn is a miracle. It's the ace of hearts, and the only card in the deck that can now beat us is the king of spades, because the king of clubs will give us the nut flush, and the river is the 4 of hearts, and we scoop this entire pot with top pair. Under the gun folds, and we sadly crack kings with our crazy overplay with ace jack. Sometimes in Texas there'll be a couple people who play tight, and we ran into them this time, and we weren't at the table long enough to figure that out, and we got lucky. If you guys are looking for some crazy action too, I've handpicked the 3 best clubs online to play. Click the link in my bio and have fun. I'll see you guys on the virtual felt. Those 2 hands you just saw happened within the first 15 minutes I sat down at the table, and now it's an hour later and we look down at jack 8 of diamonds. There's a raise to 15, and there's 2 callers, middle position and the button, and now it's on us. We decided to just call out of position from the small blind. Not something I normally do because I like to play raised pots, but we decided to deviate from our normal schedule here. We're going 4 ways to a flop, $60 in the middle, and it comes 7-9 deuce rainbow, and we're going to check out of position here, and it checks around. The turn is the 8. So now we have middle pair, and we're going to bet into all these opponents with our pair, because I think they'd be betting with the 9. We make it $20, and it folds around, and the button decides to call. The river is the 4 of hearts, and I think there's no reason to really turn our hand into a bluff here. We have great showdown value, and if our opponent wants to bluff, we'll just call him off with our second pair, because the only hands we're really worried about are, I guess, 5, 6, and I think that's unlikely. I think he would have raised us on the turn when the backdoor flush draw came in. So we put in the check, and our opponent decides to throw out $75 very quickly. So in my mind, we're going to remove a 9 from all of his range here because I think he'd be betting on the flop against all these opponents with a 9. And if he had a straight draw or any sort of bluff, I think he would have continued as well. But since he checked, he might have some overs here like king queen or ace jack or ace 10s, hands like that. Since we already made up our mind putting in the check call here, we do throw in the chips, and he shows us queen jack offsuit with the gutter ball to the nuts and 2 overs, which is a very good hand to bluff with. So we take down this $250 pot with just second pair on this board, and it feels good, baby. Let's keep it going. In this next hand, we have ace 8 of spades on the button, and we have the straddle on. So this straddle means we have ultimate last action. I've been noticing a lot in the comments, people are kind of confused on why our opening sizes are 5x, 4x sometimes, and that's just an adjusted range to Texas. So let's say you're at a regular casino playing 1-2 and you open up to $6. A lot of people fold their range there, but here in Texas, $6 is not enough for 1-2, so that's why we open to 15, 20 sometimes, because that's just the normal sizes here in Texas to open to, and we have to acclimate to that environment to make sure that our hands are protected pre-flop. And we also get max value against people's wide ranges here because a lot of gambling is going on. So with all that said, we're on the button with ace 8 of spades. There's 2 limps to us. We have ultimate last action. We're going to raise it up to $30 versus 2 limpers. And not very surprising, they both call and come along. $90 in the middle, and now we're going to a board which we smash. Ace 8, 6 with 2 hearts. We have top 2 pair, and we're expecting both opponents to check to us, but what happens is we get 1 check, and the cutoff decides to lead for $30. I think it's time to fast play on a draw heavy board like this. We don't want any hearts getting a good price to see the turn, so we're going to raise it up and we're going to go big versus this lead. We're going to make it $125. And this is what I'm expecting, just the cutoff to call, but what ends up happening is the out of position player decides to snap call for $125, and then it gets to the cutoff and he snap jams it all in. I mean, this is a snap call, but we went into the tank because it just feels like somebody has a set here and somebody has a flush, and we're essentially drawing dead to only a couple outs in the deck. I think with a hand like ace 10 or ace jack, we could find a fold here, but ace queen, ace king, we got to put in the chips. So if we have top 2 pair, we're going to slide our chips in the middle. So now it's time to isolate and jam, and we go all in, and the other player decides to go all in as well. So we're playing a 3-way all-in pot, going to a turn and a river. We flip over our hand, we're going multi-way, and the opponent out of position flips over 7, 10 of clubs, so he's looking for just a 9. This is how crazy Texas is. It's so much fun, and it's just a great place to make money and have a lot of fun and play some wild poker. The cutoff does not decide to reveal his cards, and now we're going to a turn, which is the 5 of hearts, a disastrous card, and we lose to so many hands now, and especially a flush draw. And the river is the deuce of spades, so now we beat 7, 10 of clubs. They missed their 9, which was the only card in the deck to beat us, and now we're waiting for the cutoff to reveal his cards. He shows the ace of hearts, and then the other card is the jack of clubs. So we scoop this $900 pot. It's like 1 a.m. and we're scooping all these pots. We're running hot after playing for like, what, 8 hours, and we still have a couple more hours to go. Let's keep the flow going. Oh my gosh, look at that stack, guys. I think we have nearly $1,900 in our stack, and we peel ace of spades, king of hearts. There's an undergun straddle to $5, so we're going to open up to 25, 5x, we get 3 callers, and now we're going to a flop with 100 in the middle. The flop comes jack 10, 8 with 2 hearts. Not a great board for us, so when it checks to us from the undergun straddle, we're going to check it to all the other opponents, and it checks all the way around. And now the turn is the 8 of diamonds pairing the board. Undergun straddle decides to bet $60 into all 3 opponents, and I think it's okay to flat here, so we're going to put in the chips, and everyone else folds. So now we're heads up. We're going to a river. We're looking for a lot of cards in the deck. Any ace, king, heart, or a queen for the Broadway straight. And the river comes the 4 of hearts. So now we have the second nut flush. We're expecting our opponent to continue on this card, but he checks to us. And now we're going to go for a very specific size. We're going to make it look like weakness, or we're looking like we're getting down to showdown value. And we'll only get called by, you know, a pair of jacks here, or maybe a pair of 10s that are being sticky. So we put out $40, and if he decides to raise us after checking to us, we're just going to call with the second nut flush here. But after we put the $40 in, he snap calls. We show the king high flush, and he folds, and we just get a little bit more value scooping in this $300 pot coming our way. Man, we haven't lost one, or maybe I just never include the ones that I lose. This entire vlog's an illusion, guys. I'm a horrible player, and I never win this much. It just seems like I do. And enjoy this shot of the most beautiful stack I've ever created here at the poker house. Wow, it's a tower of sexiness. All right, I know that you see $300 out in the middle, but let me explain. So we look down at pocket sixes, and we just started recording the camera once we put the chips out, and this under the gun player decides to go all in for $308, and he's looking for action. We have a pocket pair, and I think we have a lot of equity versus just any overcards that we might be facing, and we want to give this player action as well. He's also a good acquaintance of ours. His name is Vincent. He's a local poker house crusher. He's also a magician. This guy's pretty awesome. But he's looking for action, and we're going to give it with a pocket pair and with how hot we've been running. The flop comes ace, 8, deuce. Not looking good so far. We lose to any ace holding, and that's very likely. The turn is the 8 of hearts, so now it's less likely he has an 8. We're feeling pretty good now. Only an ace beats us, and maybe a pocket pair like, 9s or 10s or jacks, but I think it's unlikely he rips it. And the river is the king of clubs, and he turns over king 7 offsuit. So we had the right read, and he rivered us, but I'm happy with getting it in. At least we gave him action, and hey man, that's poker sometimes. We finally have lost one, and the illusion's been broken. Yes, we lose pots, and we do not run hot always. And that's going to be the last hand of the session. It ends up being 5 a.m. when we cash out. We were card dead. We didn't have any opportunities to make more money. We were in the game for $500, and we cash out for $2,025 for a profit of $1,525. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys checking out the shorts, watching the channel, subscribing, and joining the family. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Let's get it. Let's crush it, and good luck on the felt.